study?
No.
There's your answer.
Okay. If you become an analyst or a play-by-play guy, your favorite subject becomes what? The sport you're announcing, because you got to study it all the time. Because every week something could happen. A guy could get hurt, right? A guy could drop a pass. You got to know who he is.
Anyone remember the NFC Championship game last year with the Seahawks and the Packers?
Yeah.
They remember watching that. The Seahawks got an onside kick. Why did they get it? Someone dropped the ball, right? On the Packers. No one had ever heard of him before. But I guarantee you the announcer knew who he was, knew where he was from, and knew his stories.
You guys know when you're up there and you're broadcasting, you got to be careful. You got to be careful what you say. Okay? You got to think before you say something. So if a guy drops a pass, you can't say, "You dummy!" You can't say stuff like that. All right? You got to think before you talk. That's really important. Because sometimes when I was coaching, I would say some things that I can't say now that I'm a broadcaster, right? All right? And you also have to try to speak quickly because the game's moving on. So you can't be saying like, right? You got to be ready to speak clearly, all right? You got to be ready to speak with good confidence, and you got to know what you're talking about. And to do that, you got to study. And that's one thing, you know what I learned about communicating? They said, this guy taught me the word LOMM, L-O-M-M. Have a large, open, moving mouth when you talk so people can understand what you're saying. A lot of guys, they talk about, you got to open your mouth and try to speak clearly so people can understand what you're saying, right?
I have an expertise here on Monday Night Football, and we're going to have a thriller here where the Seahawks are taking on the Giants. And you got to wonder how good these teams are going to be going into this game. Even though it's a regular season game, there's going to be lots of intensity. So let's see what happens, and back to Zealand.
Good job, man.
Started
That away. Yeah, this is Mike Tirico. Here we are in Seattle for the Seahawks Giants. What a game this is going to be. The crowd is going to go crazy. How do the Giants win this football game, John?
The Giants probably will win this football game because of Eli Manning. He's making really good passes. He's finding the open receivers. And I think Odell Beckham will also do really good because he's got good speed and he can find openings.
Back to you. She said, back to you, Mike. Give it to me, Mike. Good job. That's excellent.
You try and make it personable. Like when you're watching Monday Night Football this year, not only are you going to say, "Hey, that's Jon Gruden. I just sat in a room with him a couple of months ago." You're also going to say, "Wow, I feel like he's sitting here. He's acting the exact same way on camera as he is right in that chair." He's engaging. He brings you in with his eye contact with the camera in that case, and the different ways that he's talking. And he's outside of his head. Here he knows what he's going to say. And to his point about asking the play-by-play guy what he's going to ask you before the game, you'll notice that when you're watching Monday Night Football, Mike Tirico will throw it to John, and then he'll go to a highlight package of a bunch of different plays of what they're talking about happening, or what the defense is going to try and do to slow down a prolific passing attack in this game. This is a too-deep safety.
Or something good that they did last game.
Exactly. Or a highlight of the last game, maybe this guy getting hurt. It's all planned out before, and then they just make it look like a conversation.
So a lot of times, the analyst, he's got to look to what's going on in the game. I got to look at the weather. I got to look at the injuries. I got to listen to what he's saying. Sometimes I forget who's in the game.
Julius.
Yeah. So the spotters, they help you. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And that's a great way to get into broadcasting. A lot of guys start off as spotters, and then they become play-by-play guys, or they get their shot to be an analyst in the box. So you got to be listening to the people in the truck. You got to be watching the game. You got to be looking at your monitor, and you got to be ready for your spotter to talk because they run the show. When do we know they're going to a commercial break? What if I'm standing there talking? They go to a commercial break. That wouldn't be very smart, is it? Sometimes you're talking, and they go 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're out.
So it's a great tackle by the Giants defense.
5.
And
4.
it looks
3.
like we're gonna go to a commercial break.
That was a lot.
Now we'll work from our sponsors.
Remember I said this, when the quarterback gets down over the ball, no talking. Everybody, play-by-play guy, analyst, no talking. When the quarterback gets over the ball, everybody's out. Otherwise, the producer and the director, they get upset. Because fans at home, they want to hear the quarterback saying what? What's he saying? Right?
Oh,
I want to hear a snap. I hear what he's saying, right? Okay? Nothing worse than people talking and talking over the ball. When the quarterback gets over the ball, everybody what?
Outside, he's dragged down by a couple of Raiders. So the Bucs just left 3 points on the field, and they're still up 34-15, but the Raiders, looking for anything to cling to, now have something.
Well, a lot could go wrong in the kicking game. That time it was a good snap. Tupa failed to get the ball down. You can't fault Gramatica. Oakland stays alive, but by a thread.
We're going to take a quick break.
20.
Wow, he's good, man.
Gramaticas might hit
18
the
seconds.